My name is Peggy Lamke Price, and I graduated from Christian College in 1943.
Tell us what brought you to Christian College.
Well, I grew up in Moberly, Missouri, and my grandmother was Mary Virginia Ruth Jennings Bassett, from Moberly, and she was the last child of a group of 10 men and the only girl. And when it came time for her to have an education, her parents wanted her to go to the best. And she went to Christian College in 1871. And I have just heard about the college all my life, and it was just a delightful experience to hear all about it. Well, my first year that I started to go to college, I wanted to go to a girls' school for 2 years, and I wanted to go here. But somehow or other, I ended up in a college my dad chose for me in the East, and it was called National Park College. And it was a wonderful place, too, at a small college on a small, beautiful campus, just out of Forest Glen, Maryland. And when I came home and had a wonderful year, 2 weeks before I was to go back, I had a telegram saying that the Office of Defense Transportation had taken over the college in a process called condemnation because the government wanted it for its own use as an Army hospital in connection with Walter Reed Hospital in Washington. And they did just a beautiful job with it, but I was so sad. But the next thing I thought about was, now I could go to Christian College. And I did. I got to go. The two presidents, Mr. Miller and Mr. Davis from the National Park, knew each other, and I think there were 2 places left in the college at the time, and I got one of them, and I was thrilled.
What was your most memorable experience or fondest memory while you were here at Christian College?
I have so many, it would take me a long time to tell you. Well, I think the most surprising thing was, and something that meant something to me personally, was that I was chosen to sing the Class Day solo. As scared as I was chosen to sing it, and I think that flattered me and pleased me as much as anything. But my experiences at the college were all so great. I know it's hard to believe that you could have a good time the whole time, but I did. And we had to follow those rules and regulations, and with the hats and the gloves and the even heels and hose. That's what really got to us, having to wear those hose all the time. Gals, we didn't know what slacks were then. So we would go to church on Sundays, and we'd go on dates, but we could only go to certain places. In fact, I'm not sure Gabe's is even here now, but that was off base for us. We couldn't go there. And we could only do certain things, except for some of the dances where they said it would be awfully nice if you'd go over to such and such a place in your formals, because we have dates for you with we've arranged to have the Navy there or the Army or whatever. So we did have fun times. And I was a member of the double sextet. That was another thrill. And when we couldn't, Geneva Youngs was the director, and we couldn't travel in those days because the war had just started in December 1941. And of course it continued through the college years. But because of that, we couldn't travel to give our programs. And our outfits were skirts and pink sweaters. And for more formal occasions, we had white formals, none of them alike, none of them what you'd call outstanding or pretty, but we sang in those, and we stood like this, and we sang for Geneva. And we had a wonderful time. And my daughter, when my daughter went here, she also made the double sextet, so we had fun. And memorable occasion when I was a student, they were all so good. We had pajama night. We had pajama night when we first got here, the performance of anyone who wanted to perform. And even if you didn't want to, you sometimes got talked into it. And a friend of mine, one of my very best friends, Marilyn Henderson Robbins, was my accompanist, and I really have forgotten what I sang, but I stood up there in my pajamas. Now, they weren't the really go-to-sleep pajamas, go-into-bed pajamas. They were a pajama outfit, much like the slack suits are these days. And I remember getting up there, I could hardly sing. I was so stage struck, you know, stage fright got me. But I did it. And oh my, it was so nice having applause. But and that was one occasion. The other occasions were during the war. We were able to wait on tables as our war effort. And they gave me the president's table. And I was always a little leery of serving soup, but I managed, and I didn't spill anything. But we received war stamps for compensation, and I thought that was neat. And we had a very good year. Other times, we had specially assigned tables and a faculty hostess at each table. And we used our table manners, and we always dressed for dinner with hose. That's what I can remember there, and I don't know what else to say about special times.
Tell us about your favorite teacher at Christian.
I enjoyed all the teachers. And when Gail was here, hers was Madame D, the French house, because that's where she lived. Gail's my daughter, who came later, the class of 71. I'm sorry, 73. And oh, I can't think of the names of them.
Did you have a?
Well, I had a wonderful Spanish teacher the first year, and we had the Dean of Women taught here that second year. I'm sorry, did I have?
Did you have a favorite class?
No, because I enjoyed all of them. And I don't know, I was majoring in English, so I enjoyed the literature classes, and I can see her, but I can't place her name right now. I should have boned up on this before I came in.
Can you tell me about a special friendship you made at Christian College?
Yes, I think particularly the girls that came here. There was one from Kentucky and some from Tennessee and Arkansas, and they lived near me in the rooms, and I already had a special friend here, Betty Flo Davis, Slankard now, and she was the one who kind of introduced me around those girls, and they had their lovely Southern accents, and they would go home with me to Moberly for holidays because they couldn't get home. And it was just a wonderful thing for all of us to have that. And Marilyn Robbins, of course, Marilyn Henderson and I have been closer through the years, and we still are dear friends. And Betty has since passed away. But the friendships we made really lasted a long, long time, and it is such fun to come back at reunions and to see people.
Can you tell us about some of the other experiences besides being a student here of this college?
Yes. Okay. In the 1960s, I had a call from Geneva Youngs, the former director of the sextet, and she asked if my mother and I would sing a duet. And I don't know if we sang solos or not, but we sang duets at the board, not the board meeting, at the alumni banquet in the early, about 63. And we did, and I enjoyed it so much, seeing people, that I became interested in. In about 1965, they called and wondered if I would be the homecoming chairman for that year. And of course, that was the year that Debbie Bryant was the Missouri Queen. Oh, Queen of...
Miss America.
What was she?
Miss America.
I'm sorry. You want to start it all over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can start all.
Yeah, let's start all over. Now I know how they have to have takes and retakes.
Take
That's
two,
okay.
Peggy.
Take two, okay.
Now where do we start with her question?
Yeah, yeah.
And in 1965, you became chairperson of the homecoming
Yes.
committee.
Yes, I did.
And that was the year that Debbie Bryant, Miss America,
She was on my committee, and she was just lovely. I was just so thrilled that she was here and working for that and advertising, of course, the college in doing so. And it was also the year that I met Jane Froman and some of those other wonderful people. I can remember the first president of the Alumni Association was Elizabeth Gentry, and she was absolutely fabulous, just as were the ones that followed her. And I just think the world of them, and I kind of think they were my mentors, actually. Elizabeth Gentry and Evelyn Estes were two of them. And I was the 5th president, and it was just such fun. But that's the alumni board now. But I became interested, though, in the board in '65 when I had that to do. And of course, no one can ever realize how much Jane Crow meant to this institution when she was actually the one who, in the background, but a very definite part of it, of telling us where to go and what to do and how to do it sometimes. But she did leave that up to us, and we had a great time, and she was remarkable in who she could remember a great part of this institution. And she was kind of the leader in helping me get through this homecoming, but we had ideas that were different that year, and each year I think they tried to change to make it a little better, and we had a good time doing that.
And then you went on to serve with the trustees?
Yes, I did. And I was asked to be the alumni representative in 1975, and from then on, my term expired either as a year or 2 years or 3, whatever it was, and I was asked to be a full-fledged member, and from then on, things were wonderful. But before that, the homecoming banquet, I was the MC of that 5 times. And one of those times, and it was in 1973, I remember it so well because Vincent Price was here. And I found him just before the receiving line. And we had receiving lines then, and we wore formals. And I stood first, and he stood next. But I can remember coming over to Missouri Hall, where we had the line, and seeing him all by himself. There wasn't another soul in that whole foyer. And I walked up the steps and tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, "Hello, Mr. Price. I'm Mrs. Price. How do you do?" And he was a little startled, and he had this smile on his face, and we were good friends from then on. But that was a wonderful thing. Then he stood in line with me, and we started the long reception line of the alumni board people. And he was second because I was to introduce him. And as we went on, we noticed that there was kind of a hitch in the traffic. And he stepped out of line and looked at the end of the line, and there stood Sally Rand. She was also a star in her own way. She was a famous fan dancer who danced, I guess, beautifully, and I never got to see her, and I'm always sorry that I didn't. But she was stopping traffic. And I had a chance to meet her the next morning at the 50-year breakfast, and I dearly loved that. She was a wonderful conversationalist and a mother, and we had so much in common, and I think that was her 50th year.